When it came to designing the cover for the Beep and Osh Kickstarter, we knew it had to be epic, a piece that captured the heart of Beep's inner beauty and Osh's irresistible edge with a softer side. So we partnered with Ivy at Beautiful Book Covers on Etsy, a visionary whose talent has brought countless stories to life in breathtaking detail. In this behind-the-scenes look, we'll share how Ivy transformed raw ideas into a visual symphony. From brainstorming sessions filled with laughs and what-ifs to those aha moments where the magic finally clicked, this journey is a testament to the power of creative collaboration. Over to you, Ivy.
Hey, Dorinda and team. I'm so happy to be here. This is a fun way to collaborate, just showing a little bit of the behind the scenes. This would all look very different if I were starting a new series, a totally new design. But in this case, it's a book 4 for an existing series. So I'm just starting with the same book 1 that I started with all of them, which gives me the same base layers that create the structure of the design. So we're going to have the same overlays, the same layout, the same typography, font styling. In this case, Dorinda's team had said they wanted to focus on the tiger lily that we had used as a repeating visual element throughout the other ones. So in this case, what I'm really doing is just kind of getting acquainted with that lily. If it's going to be the star of the show, then it needs to be perfect, right? So I'm kind of looking at it with an eye to like, okay, why isn't it perfect? Okay, I didn't like that leaf. Maybe it needs more leaves. So I'm going to cut that leaf out, move it around, and really just kind of improve upon the base parts that I have of this. And then as I move through, just keep sort of perfecting it. I tend to be a pretty organic creator, so I don't necessarily sit down with a set idea for exactly how something should look unless the client does that. And I do have some clients who will present me with a drawing, like literally they will draw out exactly what they want and they'll be like, make this. But short of client, and I don't mind that at all, but short of those clients, I tend to sit down with more a feeling that I want to create and then just sort of explore the elements that I have inside the canvas until I can kind of start to capture that tone. So here I'm changing the coloration. You know, what happens if I make it brighter? What happens if I up the contrast? Okay, if I tilt it a little bit. And really, I think while I'm doing this, I think the reality of what I'm really doing is I'm thinking in my head, how do I take this one element and make it striking enough to carry the whole novel? And contrast is one of those core elements. So here, this is where I finally was like, okay, how am I actually going to do this? And it's going to involve some amount of shading. It's going to need shadows. And I do use layer styles sometimes, but in this case, it made more sense to me to use those layers to create them. So I have, there we go. So I'm moving around. So I have the original components that make this series work. And that's like the paint splatter, the sky, the wave image that's behind it, all of which works together to create this sort of rich painterly effect. And now I'm balancing out. So I have that bright lily and that has to be combated by like, okay, some of the, like now it's really dark and heavy. So the paint splatter becomes relevant. Maybe I need to brighten the lily. Maybe I need to, so now I'm moving around the wave imagery, trying to get some of that color back. And like already that's like, it's suddenly starting to look like a cover now, right? Like just that one change. And that's where the magic starts. So now I'm like, okay, paint in some shading, adjust the layer styling. And there I was just like flicking back and forth. Do I like it? Do I like it? The leaf is getting lost here. So I'm putting it where I want it, but then it's not bright enough. So I'm going to brighten it. One of the fun things about working with Dorinda's team is how much leeway they give me. They do tend to be like, this is what we were thinking, go. And that is really fun and exciting for me because it gives me a chance to really go into that flow state where I feel like I'm creating something. And there we've started to get like a little bit of a rhythm with the background swirl. So it's starting to feel more coherent. You see that bottom left? Do you see how that immediately added balance to it? And then now I want to compare that image. So now I'm looking at it in tandem with the entire series. So what kind of visual story are we telling? And it was at that point where I was like, okay, I think we need another lily. I think one lily wasn't quite enough. to tell the whole story. And then the colors are a little bit off. You can see like, so I started with sort of a mid-range color for the lilies, and then it went a little bit pinker for 3 graves, and then it got even lighter for 2 graves. So here I'm thinking, okay, what's that last color element that could fit in with that lineup? And just tinkering with those leaves. It's funny looking back because I'm recording this after time, and it's funny to see how much time I spent on those leaves. But they matter, right? They have to be perfect. And here I'm playing with the color again. How does it look against 2 graves and 1 grave and 3? And this is where I think this is where it's just a very organic process for me of just trying different things until something clicks. That's too dark there. So there we go. I'm making it brighter, but then it's too saturated and too yellow. So now I'm lightening it, and I'm making it pinker, paler, a little bit too pink. So it's going more orange. And then now I'm putting in the actual title, centering it, making it bigger, getting it lined up. And then here I get a little OCD because I want to compare it to 2 graves to make sure it's all lined up, which, it was initially in the position of 1 grave. And so then I'm looking at it and I'm like, why is 2 graves a little lower? Well, it's because of the way the 2 fit against the graves. So I finally I realized I couldn't continue to be, if you're always looking back and trying to change things, I was thinking to myself, would I move 2 graves up at this point? And I wouldn't. 2 graves is where it needs to be. So it's just, I had to give up. You'll see I'm going to put the lines in and then spend a little bit of time agonizing. But 2 graves couldn't go up, or else the top of the T on 2 would have been too high. So it is lined up against 1 and 3. But I got kind of cranky here. See, I'm looking at it and then I'm looking at unsheltered, and I'm thinking, no, unsheltered is exactly where it needs to be. But now I'm also looking at the color of the lilies, and I'm thinking, like, how do they look? Like, if it were a bouquet of lilies, what would stick out? And I'm noticing that unsheltered was way too bright, so it had to be darkened, or lightened, I guess, paled down. Desaturated would be, I guess, the technical term. And then now I'm playing with the overlays, brightening, darkening, shifting colors, just to make it a little bit different from the rest of it. It's like they all have to take the same elements and they all have to do the same thing. They just have to look a little different. Thank you all. This was fun.